one of the best analogies that I've ever heard with this is it's like, walking into a room and there's like a really dim light and you're like, really, that's it? Like, I need a better bulb, or like, what's going on? And then you see on the wall, it's a dimmer switch. And so you go over and you push it up and all of a sudden, boom, like it's full of light again. The potential was always there in that light bulb, but if it didn't have the electricity, wasn't getting the signal, it couldn't reach its full potential. And that's what's happening in your body. You're exactly right. Lighten up like a Christmas tree is the perfect way to look at it. It's like you're putting the dimmer switch back up. All of a sudden, now the body, every single cell is able to talk efficiently again, get its job done, do what it's supposed to do. And so if you think about the body as just this cellular network, which is really all we are, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. These cells form various tissues. Those tissues form organs. Those organs form the systems of the body. And so if you can get the most foundational piece doing what it's supposed to do, doing its job, every tissue, organ, and system of the body will be functioning at its prime.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I am delighted to be joined by Danielle Matthews. Let me tell you about this incredible woman and what she's been up to. Danielle has a degree in biology from the University of Virginia, and she was on her way to using that when a tragic accident happened, and she was left with brain damage. It was a TBI, was it not, Danielle?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
It was a TBI. It was debilitating. Put her out of the workforce for quite a while, and she's back now, and she's made a remarkable recovery, and she's dedicated now to bringing some of the discoveries that she made to people who need it. And what a remarkable discovery she has come upon that I'm excited to share with you guys about. I've experienced it a little bit. I'm excited to experience it more, and I'm excited to learn about it with you guys. So without further ado, Danielle, thank you for beaming in. Pleasure to have you.
Hey, Faust. I'm so happy that our paths crossed. I think it was a divine appointment.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to be here.
It was amazing. So I was at a conference when I knew my brother was sick, and but I hadn't realized how sick. And I had spoken to him, and I saw how sick he was, and immediately I made arrangements and left the conference to go see him. I was in San Diego, and so was Danielle. And as I was leaving, I was just kind of making my rounds before I went to the airport. And Danielle had a booth set up, and she was so kind. She gave me this, she gave me this gel from my brother, and told me all about this product. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that gel worked, for my brother as we get going. But Danielle, first tell us a little more about, you were teaching, I know that, and then you had this, you were in an accident, right?
Yeah. So I was hit by a drunk driver. That's how all this kind of unfolded. I was at the time living in Colorado. I was doing Teach for America, teaching 6th grade math. And
Wow.
I was having the time of my life because I was snowboarding on the weekends and living my dream, quite honestly. And that all came to a screeching halt. I was 23 years old. This guy was 7 o'clock in the morning. He, I think, been drinking the night before, just passed out while he was driving and hit my car head on. And so, in a lot of ways, I was very fortunate because my body was okay. The car took the impact the way it's designed to, but my brain hit my skull. And so I had these internal injuries to my brain, like the myelin sheath had been ripped, and I felt really out of it. And it was interesting because it took a little while to diagnose this. I was told, you're in shock. That was what the paramedics said to me at the beginning. They said, look, Danielle, you're in shock. It'll wear off. I went to an urgent care. They told me the same thing. And it became clear in like a week after. I said, look, something is very wrong. My head feels like it's going to explode. I could concentrate. I was sensitive to any sort of input, light, noise. And I was not myself. Like my personality had shifted. I was very blunt, super intense. And so I finally was able to get in with my primary care. And he said, look, you've had a brain trauma. You need to go to a neurologist, and got the diagnosis of a mild TBI, a mild traumatic brain injury, which I think is a little bit of an oxymoron, because there was certainly nothing mild about it. I attempted to go back to work, but as you can imagine, like a room full of sixth graders is like the worst place to be when you've got a brain injury. It's loud, it's bright. I couldn't remember their names. I'd write a to-do list, and then I'd write the same to-do list. I mean, my mind was just not with me. And so ultimately I ended up losing my job and having to move back in with my parents and just focus full-time on trying to get me healthy.
Wow. Yeah, TBIs they can be so detrimental in so many ways. And there's a subterfuge to the way that they exact their, symptomatic, I don't want to say revenge, because it's obviously not a conscious thing, but personality, everything is affected. If you've ever known anyone who's had a TBI, a TBI is a TBI. They don't really know how bad it is until it starts getting that bad.
Mm-hmm.
An injury is an injury to the brain. And it's such a delicate, that's why we have this thick skull, because it's such a delicate organ. And yes, I know people who have suffered from TBI. I know people who have, their marriages have fallen apart. It can be a long road, and it's like there are very few things that they know of besides time that is supposedly going to be the thing that helps you heal your TBI. It's like sometimes everything has to be kind of rewired. So that's crazy that you lost your job and you had to move back in with your parents. And so then it was, how did you first start trying to, okay, like I know I have to get better. How am I gonna, because I know that they do recommend different things to try to recover from this, but what was your recovery process like?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up in a family where my grandfather was a Westernly trained doctor. And so he immediately was, putting me in touch with the best neurologist he knew. And my mom, maybe in reaction to him, went more the alternative route. And so she immediately tapped her network. And so what I was being told by the Western doctors, this neurologist, basically was, sit tight. There's nothing we can do. We try to get people with brain injury to your state, actually.
Mm.
And so we really have nothing to offer, just time. And they told me first 1 month, then 3 months, then 6 months. And at my 1-year appointment, this neurologist literally said to me, Danielle, with your type of injury, the body's done all the healing it will do. And this is your new, and you need to adjust your life around it. And in my head, I was like, you're fired. If you think this is going to be my life, you're crazy. So I knew there would be options coming. And my mom had been more successful in finding some potential things. I did hyperbaric oxygen treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I did neurobiofeedback with a woman, Mary Lee Esty. She works at Walter Reed with a lot of veterans coming back with TBI and helping to just get things patterned differently in the brain with how it processes and how the neurons fire. We changed my diet completely. I started to supplement. I was taking like 16 pills a day with supplements. And, I would say after a year of doing all of those things, if I had been a 10 out of 10, maybe they'd gotten me to an 8 out of 10. I still couldn't function. There had been a little bit of like some windows of time, maybe where the migraine stopped for a moment or something like that, but nothing was lasting. Nothing was actually repairing me. And it was a dark time. I mean, I went through a severe depression. I had panic attacks because I couldn't think about my future. Yeah, I didn't know how I'd feel an hour from now. I couldn't even have somebody come over to hang out if they're willing to sit with me in a dark room. It was very, very lonely. But it also, these things, I believe my higher self orchestrated this to wake me up and to actually remind me of, why I came to this planet and what my soul was supposed to do.
Yeah, I know all about that. That's amazing to hear. So, wow. So 1 year in, you're firing your neurologist. Like, dude, why again are we paying you out, so much money? So tell me how you came upon this product and how you learned about it, and then how you tell everyone what it's called, and then how you began to implement it And then we'll get into some of the amazing science behind how it actually works and the implications of it.
So there's one thing that changed everything. And that was a phone call we got from an acupuncturist that knew of my issues. She was friends with my mom. And she said, I have started using something called ASEA, ASEA, in my practice. And she said, it's redox signaling molecules. It's cellular signaling, cellular communication. And she said, it is going in and helping each of my clients exactly where they need it. It's a liquid you drink. And she said they drink it in the morning and at night. All of them are seeing results. And some of them, it's repairing hormone balance. Some of them, it's their digestive issues. Some of them, it's their lungs. Some, it's their skin. And she was so convinced, she said, I believe it would pass the blood-brain barrier and could help Danielle. And so my mom just intuitively got it. She said, yeah, this is it. This is what we've been looking for. She bought it. She brought it home. And she ran into a brick wall with me because the biologist in me was like, what are you talking about? Redox signaling. Yeah. I said, this isn't a thing. I didn't learn about it in school. Like, what is she talking about? And the ingredient panel said sodium chloride and water.
You're like,
that sounds like saline. I was
Mom,
like,
this is snake oil.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I think your friend's officially lost it. So I ignored it. I'm always honest with my story in this. Like, I wish I had seen the light immediately, but I didn't. My ego got in the way. Mm-hmm. And my mom started drinking it because she said, well, she had bone on bone in her hands. So like, she couldn't even make a fist. The range of motion was that limited, so much swelling and inflammation. She started drinking this, and 6 weeks into it, got full range of motion back in her hands.
Wow.
And I watched that happen. And the biologist, the scientist in me is like, placebo.
Yeah. Good old fashioned placebo.
Yeah. I'm like, no way. But my dad, he was saying, well, hang on a second. I've got a bad knee. Like, if it helped her joints, let's see what it does for mine. And so my dad started using it. And my dad's a big athlete. Okay. He played college football. He ended his career because of a knee injury. It's plagued him his whole life, but he always works out to keep the muscles strong and, keep the knee feeling good. 10 days into drinking the ASEA Redox, he was running without his brace on. Wow. He said the inflammation was down. He had more energy. He said he was like doing more in the workouts, not sore afterwards and repairing faster after them. And he's like, what is this stuff? And so my dad's more analytical. Mm-hmm. He dove into the science. I mean, he went to PubMed, he went to Google Scholar, he was talking with the scientists that were working with this technology. And he came back to me and he said, listen, Danny, this is too new. You weren't taught this in school. The science is too new. And he said, this is the missing link. I want you to give it 6 months and let's see what this can bring your body. I think your body can repair itself. And so I started. I honestly thought they were wasting their money, but I agreed, like, it can't hurt me. It might help me. Like,
right. Nothing to lose. Sure.
Yeah. Nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so I started on my journey with it, and I was drinking 8 ounces a day. I didn't notice anything immediately, but Faust 3 months in. So, I mean, I had to keep faith, but right. 3 months in, the pounding that had been relentless in my head for 2 years stopped.
Wow.
It has never come back. I started to be able to concentrate again. I could get the words out I wanted to. I had energy. I wasn't having to nap. I mean, it was phenomenal. And my cognitive therapist, who I'd been seeing weekly, trying to help me kind of adjust life and live life with a TBI, she said, Danielle, I've worked with brain injury for 30 years, and I've never seen such a rapid recovery so far out from someone's initial trauma. Wow. And she said to me, what the hell is that stuff you started drinking?
Hey, what's the name of that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. And that launched me into investigating. She was really the catalyst, because then the scientist in me went, yeah, well, why is this working? Like, how did it do this? And what is the mechanism of action? And, that was 8 years ago. And I've learned so much in the past 8 years.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, but what's wonderful about what they have created and is, there's a whole slew of studies and you can go on and you can read about how this functions and why it works. And then when Danielle tells us about how the pharmaceutical company tried to buy it out, I'm sure to hide it, suppressing patent. Yeah. They do that often. You're going to understand that how much value it has, and
Yeah.
to someone's health, and anything that, as many of my faithful listeners are well aware of, should be, anything that threatens the bottom line of these health organizations is going to be they're going to try to take it off the shelf. That's what they do. That's what they've always done. I'm like, I tell people all the time, Danielle, I'm like, do you honestly believe that they have trillions of dollars of research and they haven't found the cure for cancer? Like,
Yeah.
chemo
is a money maker.
This is crazy. This is crazy to even contemplate. Who believes this anymore? Of course they have, and then you can really discover just how many times someone has come up with yet another way, and how they have taken that person off the table, either through legal means, or even more nefarious ways, or sometimes just buy the patent, or sometimes they call and they say, they go to register the patent and they find out the patent exists already and it's owned by the pharmaceutical company. How's that for a kick in the nuts? It's like,
no kidding.
My God. How slap in the face. Like, what world do you think you're living in? Oh man. Anyway, I won't go off on too many conspiracy theory rants. I think
it's just awareness. Like,
yeah.
I didn't realize until I had my accident that, like, the medical community, number one, doesn't have all the answers, right? Like, I thought, oh, like, I have this injury, they'll be able to help me. No, they couldn't. I had to learn to be my own advocate. And I also had to learn, like, nobody's coming to save me, and everyone's kind of out for, like, well, how can they earn, and what's in place, and these medications. Like, I was given a medication for my migraine with the side effect of more migraines if I took it too much.
Oh my God.
So it was like, are you kidding me? You're giving me a drug that's going to give me more of what I have, so I can't use it all the time. Like, it was I just kept scratching my head and going, there's got to be a better way. Like, there has to be a better way. And there is. I mean, with the redox signaling, like, so to get into just briefly, like, what this
go
is,
for it.
go deep into the science as you want, but redox just stands for reductants and oxidants. And reductants are negatively charged, oxidants positively charged. So if you go down to the level of your cells, every cell in your body, you're like 50 trillion cells, they're all communicating, and they do it through signal. You make your signaling molecules in your mitochondria. And as your mitochondria, after puberty, as we get older, your mitochondria get less efficient. And so the body starts making less signaling molecules. And think about if your cell phone had 5 bars of service, and then through life, it just kind of started getting less and less and less. All of a sudden, you can't make the call. The phone's great, right? The body's great, but if it doesn't have the signal, if it can't communicate, then it doesn't know what's going on. So it can't find the mutated cell. It can't find the damaged cell. I think you think about breaking a bone, or a 5-year-old breaks their bone, like, they're back in action,
Feels like lightning. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're 30, okay, you're like still fast, but not that fast. And 50s, you're probably going to physical therapy. 70s, like, it could end your life if you're not careful, because the healing process is so slowed. And it correlates with the reduction of the body's ability to detect the damage. And this company, ASEA, they figured out how to stabilize these reductants and oxidants in a vessel where they stay positive and negative. Faust, it's like having hot and cold water in the same thing and it not becoming lukewarm. Like, what they have done was thought to be impossible. Scientists have tried to do it for a long, long time, and they can do it in the lab, but they can't make it last. These guys figured out how to make it last. It's like stabilizing the spark. And you can drink it, and it goes into your system, and your body looks at it as if it's the molecules it makes. And so it just, like, fills your gas tank back up. It puts you back, the signals go back up to 5 bars. So when you have damage, the body hears the issue and it comes over and repairs it. If you've got a mutated cell, the body recognizes it and kills it off. It's remarkable. And these molecules, not only is it like the detection of damage, like wherever you need, because it doesn't matter if it's a lung cell in your pancreas, your liver, your skin, literally it doesn't matter. In your body, everything talks with these reductants and oxidants. So for you, it might help your liver. For me, it might help my heart, right? It just, like, depends on where we have our damage. And it goes into the cells as well. So your glutathione, I don't know if you're familiar with glutathione. Okay. It's a master antioxidant, helps your body to detoxify, helps your body deal with inflammation. It has to be reduced. It needs an electron to turn itself on. Like, glutathione is just sitting in our bodies waiting to be reduced. And so some of the research on ASEA found that it upregulated glutathione by 800%.
Wow.
Body's innate glutathione. So you can detoxify when you start drinking it. Some people notice the detox, a lot of people don't. And it helps the system, to regulate inflammation when glutathione is upregulated. And inflammation is the underlying cause of so much disease and illness. Yeah. So to be able to address it is amazing. And some of the other research they've done is on genetic expression. And, our environment impacts which genes are getting expressed.
Right.
So in time, we're exposed to a lot of toxins, stress, like just our environment, the aging process. Some things that usually get expressed can kind of be turned off. Yeah. And when you put back the signaling, all of a sudden, everything is getting activated again. So the genes that help with your innate immune response, the part of you that goes after viruses, your inflammatory response, cardiovascular health, digestive enzyme production, hormone modulation. Like those are just some of the genes that ASEA has researched that when you drink it, they get activated. The expression of these go up, which, well, what does that mean for us? Our hormones are balancing, right? Our digestion is getting back in line. I mean, it's phenomenal. I think science and the research is catching up to what ASEA has discovered. Like they're at the forefront. I don't think of ASEA as a product. I think of it as a breakthrough. You know, like when we found penicillin, like it's mold. Who wouldn't? That's not a product. Like that's a breakthrough. When we realized like this can help with infection. Are you kidding me? And this I look at the same way, and it is revolutionizing the way people are able to address their health.
Amazing. Are you familiar with Dr. Zach Bush?
Yes, he uses ASEA.
Oh, I was going to say, it doesn't surprise me. Oh, he's a brilliant man. He talks about, and I've heard him talk about this on more than one occasion. What happens to the body when there's cancers? The communication stops. There's this things become isolated, and what happens then is the cancer is left to thrive, and it's the cancer that ends up multiplying. I don't know if I'm doing justice to the way he summarized this, but he talks about how because what was going on at the time when I heard him say this was basically we were isolating our seniors, and letting them die by themselves. And he's like, this is what we see in the body when it's dying, when it becomes cancerous. He's like, nothing survives this way, and what happens in the body as we age is there's a breakdown in communication. And it doesn't. So when I think about what you're telling me, it does. One of the reasons why certain psychedelics, which are now being, used to help people in treatment, not only just for PTSD and for depression, but also in some cases and trials, for TBIs, is because people are getting an opportunity to activate both hemispheres of the brain. And so they're healing. The brain's communicating in ways and rewiring in ways that it had no longer either been able to or ever could. And it's like the product you're describing to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it seems to me like it has that systemic effect on the body. It's kind of light, plugging in the Christmas tree, and now the whole thing is lit up. There's no longer the links in the chain that aren't connecting and conducting.
You're getting it. I think one of the best analogies that I've ever heard with this is it's like, walking into a room and there's like a really dim light and you're like, really, that's it? Like, I need a better bulb, or like, what's going on? And then you see on the wall, it's a dimmer switch. And so you go over and you push it up, and all of a sudden, boom, like it's full of light again. The potential was always there in that light bulb, but if it didn't have the electricity, wasn't getting the signal, it couldn't reach its full potential. And that's what's happening in your body. You're exactly right. Lighten up like a Christmas tree is the perfect way to look at it. It's like you're putting the dimmer switch back up. All of a sudden, now the body, every single cell is able to talk efficiently again, get its job done, do what it's supposed to do. And so if you think about the body as just this cellular network, which is really all we are, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. These cells form various tissues. Those tissues form organs. Those organs form the systems of the body. And so if you can get the most foundational piece doing what it's supposed to do, doing its job, every tissue, organ, and system of the body will be functioning at its prime.
Mm-hmm.
And what's amazing is that the body knows where it is damaged. So
Mm-hmm.
when your body drinks this, it works with the innate intelligence inside of you to go where it needs to go. And so I've helped thousands of people learn about this. And what I always get so excited about is the day somebody starts, because, and I always say baseline your health, because I don't know where it's going to work.
Right.
I don't know if your hair is going to start growing back. I don't
Right.
know if you're going to be happier, if you're going to sleep better. Like, are you going to lose a little weight? I don't know what it's about to do. So let's like take a screenshot, right?
Right.
Where are we today? And then where are we a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now? Just to set expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening and you want to try this, I always tell people, look at this as 90 days. Most of your cells turn over in a 90-day period. And
Sure.
so you really want to know, what's it going to do for me? What's my experience going to be? Give it a window of time to work, because
Right.
you might not feel your cells repairing at the system level immediately. It takes time.
Right. Right. Of course. It does. Everything takes a little bit of time. So I know you've been working with people, and you've probably seen a whole array of different, everything from like athletes to people who are, are in poor health, and who have come, kind of given up trying to figure out what drug has the least side effects that
Right.
will, help them in their life right now. And I would love for you to share, if you don't mind, if you can. I know we live in a medical industrial
Yeah, you
security
gotta be careful.
state
No medical claims.
these days. But I think that you could speak a little bit about some of the data that you've seen come back from people who, in different cases. I don't think that we can get in too much trouble for talking about that, right?
Well, I'll just preface everything I'm saying with, look, this is not a drug. It is not diagnosing, treating, curing, or anything. It is simply empowering your body to do what it's designed to do, which is to figure out where you have damage and repair where you have damage. So, I'll share more with my family. My grandmother, she was in her 90s. She had been on Synthroid for 50 years. She had a thyroid issue. And I'll never forget, a year into her using the ASEA, she called me and she said, I've just gotten a call from my doctor. He wants me to back off of my Synthroid. And I said, okay, why is this a bad thing? And she said, well, Danielle, I've been on this for 50 years. I think they did their blood work wrong. I need to go back to the doctor. And she wasn't driving at the time. So we had to coordinate, to get her get back there, get her blood work done. Sure thing, same thing. No, it was your blood work and your panels are different. You need to back down on your medicine. You don't need as much. So she started taking less and she called me all upset. And I said, well, time out a second. I said, why is this a problem? And she stopped and she said, you're right. I never thought that my thyroid would be able to start doing what it was supposed to do again. She said, I was told it was impossible. 50 years. She got down to a baby dose of the Synthroid medication. She also, another complaint of hers, which always cracked me up, was her hair got thicker and it was growing in faster. And so she was having to go to the hairdresser more and she was having trouble getting her turtlenecks over her hair.
Wow.
But that's what a sign of health, right? Your fingernails and your hair. My nails grow so fast and they're so thick. I used to have very brittle nails. I don't anymore. And that's, I know, a sign of good health. And something that we haven't talked about yet is the topical. So the liquid can take time. And I always tell people, be patient. You might be working on something you didn't even know was an issue.
Yeah.
And
most likely, that's what it is doing.
Well, that made me think of a story. Okay, before we get to the dough, I got to share this story.
Okay.
I was listening, when I first started with this, I was really hungry. Like, I want to hear more stories. What is this doing? How is it working? Because I understood it could touch everything. And I remember I was on a phone call listening to this gentleman share that his wife had started the Redox because she was going through menopause and she was, hormones were all over the map.
Yeah.
And she was loving it. And she was like, I feel great. My body's more regulated. Like, she was feeling wonderful. So she bought it for him. And he didn't feel anything. And he was like, she's making me drink salt water. Like, she is wasting our money.
Yeah.
But she was so adamant, and he could see the difference in her, that he said, all right, fine, I'll just drink it. 4 years, this man was drinking it, thinking nothing was happening. He wakes up one day, has a cough, goes into the doctor, and they do an x-ray. He has a huge mass on his lung.
Oh my God.
And they said, you need immediate surgery. Like, we have to remove it. So he went in, came back after surgery. The doctor walks in the room and says, I've never seen what I saw before when I got in there. And the guy was like, what do you mean? And he said, your body had encapsulated that tumor. Like, it was completely shut off. It didn't allow it to spread anywhere else.
Wow.
All of my years, I've never seen it. And he goes, it was right then that I knew what the Redox had been doing. It knew there was an issue, and it was helping the body keep it contained.
Wow.
So I got chills sharing that story. I haven't thought about that story in a long time, but it's like, you never know.
No,
You just never know what's going on.
That's what healthy signals do. So like I just want to tell people this, because I know this, because in my family and in my experience, and I've got a chance to learn a little bit about tumors and how they grow, and also what allows them to continue to grow, and what stabilizes them, and what can even begin to shrink them. And cell signaling, that's your fence. That's the body only knows to keep something at bay if it is signaled to. And so I think it's safe to say, I'm obviously not a doctor, even though my name is Faust, that you could definitely point and say, well, something in his body had been helping him to signal and keep that quarantined, keep that tumor stay where it is, so that it can't expand. Because it's only when signals become off that's when then that's usually what happens when the body starts to take hits. And with chemo and all these different things, it's very difficult for the body to maintain anything, because the immune system just starts to take punch after punch. But I think that in a story like that, it speaks volumes, because there's really only one thing that contains a tumor in the body, and that is the cell signaling, the right signals, right? And then what we could get into what shrinks a tumor, and all that. That's another thing, but that's an amazing story, and it resonates with me, because I know that's how, that's the difference between a tumor getting bigger and it not getting bigger, or even shrinking and going away. So that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. So
yeah, we'll never know what we prevent, right?
No.
People ask me all the time, why are you still drinking this? Like, you don't have your brain injury anymore. Like, why would you spend the money on something like this? And I'm like, how could I not? I've lost my health once. I never want to lose my health again, because when you don't have your health, you can't do anything. Nothing matters this life if you don't have your physical body with you. And I always tell people, look, I have no idea what this is prevented. I have no idea.
That's right.
I just know that it's helping my body proactively identify damage, mutated things that are off that should be on. Like, it is just helping my system fire on all cylinders. Keeps the lights on really bright. My Christmas tree is lit. And that's why I stay on it 8 years. If I stop taking it, like, I went to the Philippines for a little while, and back then we didn't ship to the Philippines. We now do, but back then we didn't. And so for 6 months, I didn't really have the product with me, and my symptoms didn't come back, because everything repaired.
Right.
But what I noticed was my mental clarity was just not as sharp. Like, when I take the Redox, I'm on. Like, everything is like very crisp. My energy is sustained. I sleep really well. I can feel a difference in my being. Right. And as I've stayed on the product, my intuition is much deeper than it ever used to be. And I think, like, now that my physical body is in its prime state, there's like another level to myself I'm accessing, and it's super exciting.
Wow. It makes sense. You don't have to you don't spend too much time in and around these circles and be practicing and have a spiritual practice to start to see what happens when people move out of a survival mode, and a survival mode can very much be an addictive state of living, because adrenal glands and fear. I always tell people, and I use this hashtag a lot, fear is a hell of a drug. Kick the habit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's this crazy cycle that happens between fear and adrenaline, and it's you're revving the engine while holding the brake, and that's never healthy. And we have a society that is, between, look, we all grow up and we play cops and robbers and we play games, and there's a certain amount of excitement and stimulation that is good for you and healthy for children, but a lot of the technology is geared towards really strong dopamine hits and, really exciting thrills. And then our kids are, their pleasure centers are like, I don't know, somewhere towards Saturn, and then they play their game and they come back down to us and they're like, this sucks. Like, well, yeah, dude, you just spent 4 hours on the rings of Saturn and now you're here and you can't just be, but there's constant stimulus that is unhealthy, and it will deteriorate, cell function. Just like, you keep pressing the button over and over, it's going to break, right? So I feel like anything we can do to combat that, and just the typical aging process. And I've had people on my show who have talked to me at length about how we live in an environment, unfortunately, that's been so toxified, and that you cannot actually retain your health without supplements. I mean, and he, what made some great points. My one guest, Mike Thalen, his name was, PhD. He's and he's just like, he's in his late 40s, and he's breaking swimming records because he's a crazy biohacker. You might have heard of him. He's a really nice cat, speaks very well. But he was like, there's just not enough. The nutrients aren't even in the food anymore. You know what I mean? Like, they've GMO'd them out of the food, and the rest of them are extinct. So while we figure out our biodiversity problem, you have to supplement. You have to give the body a chance. You're not going to be able to do it with what you're buying from the tobacco industry, which owns the food industry. That's a little tidbit came out a few weeks ago. It made the mainstream consciousness. Did you see that?
No, I did not see that.
Did you know Philip Morris bought Kraft? Oh,
no.
And Nestle was bought by, I don't know, Virginia Slims. I was like, that makes perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah.
The poison we're putting in ourselves. You got to be consciously aware. I think, I'm really hopeful. I feel as though everything we went through over the last few years really shook people and woke them up to start questioning, start asking, start looking deeper, not taking things at face value. And it's exciting to me. And I think, ASEA is well positioned.
Yeah. Yes,
because people are searching. They're looking for, how do I empower my body?
Yeah.
How do I take my power back when it comes to my health? And I literally can't think of anything. I mean, nutrition is key. Like, this isn't nutrition. You do need to.
Right. No, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can just drink this and
drink this and it's all over. No.
Eat cheeseburgers, pizza, and beer for the rest.
Put good fuel in your tank. But I wanted to talk about this. So let me just, for those of you on video, you can see me, but this blue bottle is the ASEA Redox. This is the liquid you drink, but they came out with a topical. It's called Renu 28. They called it that because people were spraying the liquid on their skin and their wrinkles were going away. Their skin elasticity was coming back. Their sun damage was improving. And they asked the company to make a topical version. It took them like over 40 tries to get a topical, because these molecules are so reactive. Like, as soon as they touch something organic, they start doing their thing. So it took them 40 tries to get a silicate that was like inert enough that, they could make it congeal. And all the research they did was on wrinkles, because that's what people had been reporting. And it helps, obviously, new skin cells to come in faster, and it gets rid of the old damaged ones. So yeah, it does a lot for anti-aging.
Yeah, you guys have to see the pictures. Like, this is incredible. And I'm talking about like 28 days later.
Yeah, that's why they call it Renu 28. Yeah.
Oh, that's why they call it. Okay. That's why they call it. That makes perfect sense. Incredible results. I mean, and so my experience with this gel is interesting. When I met Danielle, I hadn't I was just kind of walking by and she was like, you want to try this? And I was like, sure, I'll try anything once, and so she was like, what we do is we put it on the vagus nerve. And that it acts as a signaler and immediately activates this part of the body through the vagus nerve. And I was like, okay. So she had me, if you're watching, you can see I have my hands, like you would, it can help someone get over the fence that they need to get over. Right. And I put that in front of me straight down. And then she came over and she pushed down on it. And I was like, I kind of went forward, not really by choice, but she was putting weight on it. And then she put it on she rubbed some of the gel on my neck and she's like, all right, I'm gonna give that a second. I'm gonna try again. And I was like, okay, what are we doing? And then she walked over and she's like, okay, you ready? And I was like, yeah. And I had my hands out same way. And she did the same thing, but nothing happened. And she was like, I just want you to know I'm
my full weight was on you. Like I jumped and pushed.
She's like, I'm putting all my weight on you. And I was literally, she was like, I was lifting her, I had her up off the ground, but I didn't move. She was just using me as a stepping stool and I was rock solid. It was crazy. And I was like, what, how does that, so this is a crazy application of it. And obviously, maybe not the most common, but it give you an idea of the kind of signaling power that it has. Right. Fast forward, she was kind enough to give me a bottle when I told her where I was going with my brother, who was very sick in a hospital bed. And she didn't think she had anything. Then she found a bottle and she gave it to me. So I brought it home. I flew to Philadelphia and I put it on my brother to give you an idea how sick he was. He was in bed and he couldn't even sit forward. He saw me and he said my name and but he couldn't even stick around to kind of he said Faust, and I said, yeah, I'm here. And he went right back. He didn't have the strength to keep his head up or his eyes open. And then he came back to maybe like 5. I don't know how much time passed. I was just kind of like staring at my brother, and he tried to ask me how long when I got here. He said but he couldn't finish. He didn't have the energy to finish the sentence. He couldn't even keep it. He looked at me, but then he was back again. Right. And then they had to move him into his bed. Finally he tried to tell me that he was having trouble. He was like, he couldn't get that out. And I was like, just rest, So they moved him from his chair to his bed because they were going to take him to dialysis, and he couldn't move himself. This, my brother's had health problems his whole life, but he's never been in this state before. They had to pick him up and move him to his bed. And so when he got back from dialysis, I waited for him for a few hours and I said, so my mom, I said, Mom, I got this gel. Now, I just know a little bit how it works. I said, but I know if we rub some on his neck, it'll help give him strength, because I felt that. And I said, and we can rub it on his kidneys because his kidneys were failing. And I said, and it can't hurt. I said, he couldn't drink, for a number of reasons. It would have taken time for that to work systemically on him. And his kidneys had been shut down. He couldn't even get any urine into his bladder. That's how things were completely haywire in his body. But we rubbed this stuff on, right? And then I would say about 10, 15 minutes later, he sits up. And my parents are like, they're at his side in a second because they're like, whoa, you know what I mean? He sits up and he's looking at me, and I said, what? And I look at my parents, I'm like, what? He's invigorated, you know what I mean? They were just smiling and crying because we didn't know if he was ever going to do that again. It didn't seem like it. And and he was with me. My parents were on each side of him, and he looked me in the eye. He had his eyes open. He looked tired and he looked beat up, but he said, he had this look in his face. It was pain look, and his exact words were, I'm tired of this shit. That's what he told me. And I said, man, it's so good to see you up. He reads lips because his hearing isn't what it was. And he just told me he was ready to go home. He said, I'm ready to go home. And I said, well, I had a feeling he meant the greater home. My parents were smiling. They thought he meant our home, our physical home. But my God, you know what I mean? That was 10 minutes later. I'm telling you, he had one more bout like that when he said goodbye to my parents and he passed away, where he started to sit up a little bit. But that was the last time he showed that kind of strength. Was then, and then to say goodbye to my parents. So, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't think that, I know obviously my presence there may have helped, and he was vaguely aware I was there and all that, but something gave him the strength to sit up and stay sitting up and keep his eyes open and focus on me. It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah.
The analogy that was shared with me, so that little test I did with you, a gentleman named Jerry White, he's on the medical board of the company. He's amazing. He used to coach Olympic athletes and just a brilliant mind. He said to me, Danielle, when you rub it on the vagus nerve like that, it's like taking an orchestra that's been playing, and all of a sudden the conductor comes up and taps his wand and says, everybody now together. And now all of a sudden, everybody is in harmony and flowing together. And he said, when you rub it on the vagus nerve like that, all of a sudden, all the communication in the body it becomes on point, which is why your strength, you're solid, because everything's talking in unison. We also, I don't know if I did it with you, but I was doing it with other people at that event, flexibility increases. And for your brother, I agree. I think the energy of you being there, of course, is helpful, but knowing what I know about the redox, makes sense to me that all of a sudden he was able to just get everything flowing in a way.
Yeah.
He could become alert because the signal was there again.
Yeah.
And so everything was kind of firing, like the dimmer switch, right? Got put up for a little while.
Right.
And the more you use this, the better. It's like putting construction workers on the job site. So the first day they come, they get a little bit of the work done, but the whole project's not finished. You have to keep doing it day in and day out until the project's done. And the cool thing with the Renu 28 that I can only do if somebody has discomfort. I always tell people, like, if you want to see this stuff working, you had the experience, you saw it with your brother. This is something I do. Like, I just tell me where you've got discomfort. Scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it?
Right.
What's your range of motion? And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I just know that it works. 3 applications of this stuff within 5 minutes. If you do that, say you do that on 10 people that tell you they got discomfort and they've baselined it, 9 out of 10 of them are going to come back to you and say, what is that stuff? How did it just do that?
Right.
It is that many. And so it goes deeper than the skin. Like, it's getting in and it's increasing the communication. There's some of the research they've done. It shows that the blood flow increases by like 49% to the area, which makes sense, right? The call for help going out, blood starts flowing, it starts bringing what's needed to the area. So there's so much with this. I feel like we're at the tip of the iceberg, and I wish, maybe I had met you a year ago and we could have done more with your brother, but I'm glad that we had that moment. I'm glad I had an extra 2 of this stuff in my bag.
My God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't think you did, and then you found one.
I know. I was like, yes, that's perfect.
Yeah. It's there's so much that I think we're discovering about how to utilize the bodies. The body has this amazing innate ability to fix itself, right? And more as we look to alternative ways to activate and utilize the body's innate healing ability, we're going to have more and more breakthroughs like this. But this is incredible. I think it's along the same lines as the breakthroughs that they've made with, some of the stem cell research and therapies that they've come out with. And even those have had to kind of hang their hat on, well, the best ones anyway. I don't know if you heard Dr. Todd or not. He's been on my podcast. Dr. Todd spoke that for some reason he wasn't scheduled, but he spoke at the end of the first day, kind of impromptu. He didn't have his slides, but he's having to work under the banner of age, regeneration, and extended longevity, instead of health benefits, because You know what I mean? Like, and this is the insanity of the world that we live in. You know, it's like,
Well,
there's
and if people don't know,
yeah,
like so many people just think, oh, well, I would have heard about it. Or why isn't it like approved by the FDA? And I'm like, no, you don't, no.
no, yeah,
Only drugs go that route. And
that's
like a
right.
supplement can't be. And like, I don't even think you want it to be, because approval really means nothing. It just means you've got the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild. I'm glad you're spreading awareness about it and helping people, wake up to the fact that like you have to kind of got to get creative with how you talk about this.
Yeah.
Like there's certain words you can and can't say when it comes to this. And,
Mhm.
I know what I've seen, but I can only share, like, you can talk about symptoms, but not a name of a disease. Like
Right.
it's so interesting, like this line that you have to walk. And, when people get
It's crazy that you can't truly advertise because because of what will happen, because what they'll shut your ass down, to
Yeah.
put it bluntly, but I'm sure that you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it work on symptoms of a wide array of people dealing with a wide array of health issues. It seems to me like it's got
I'll
tremendous
say
potential.
there's not a health challenge I haven't seen it touch in some way.
Yeah.
And if I interviewed the researcher that helped to stabilize this. I've interviewed so many members of the medical board, the president of the company, the founder, the people in charge of production. Like, I have a very curious mind.
Mhm.
And, I have a lot of questions. And I was told this, like when I was because people ask me all the time, what about autism? What about
Right.
Parkinson's? What about autoimmune? And so I would ask all these guys that. And the answer that kept coming back to me was, Danielle, is there a cell involved in what you're asking about? And I'm like, well, yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's your answer.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
it is that foundational. Like, we're
Mhm.
working with the foundational piece of how the body works. And it's amazing. And I think, God, if we want to step into the spiritual world for a second, because I think you and I have a common love for science and spirituality.
Mhm.
It's probably why we were at that conference together.
That's right.
Consciousness and human evolution. I have been working a lot with quantum healers, people that can, they see your light energy body, they
Mhm.
see the energy all around, and the energy they feel in this product. Like, I had one woman tell me it was the first thing she felt when she walked into the room. She felt it
Wow.
before she felt me. I've had some healers drink it and call me and say, Danielle, do you have any idea what this stuff does? And I'm like, I laugh and I'm like, well, from my conscious level of awareness, I
Yeah.
can explain the biology. I'm like, skin in. And they said, no, it's shifting my cells from a carbon state to a crystalline state.
Wow.
And that's helping to activate the pineal gland. They're telling me that they have more clarity in their readings and what they're able to do with their clients. And it's so exciting. And I would take it as anecdotal, except that, I don't know, about a year ago, it kind of took off in the spiritual community. And so
Mhm.
I have been getting dozens of people reporting and telling me the same things. And I'm like, I don't know how you do any research around that, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
clear to me something is going on. And I have always seen, I call it the ASEA glow.
Mhm.
I can tell when someone's drinking ASEA, because this sense of like well-being comes over them, and they literally, like, it's like they glow. I mean, I don't see auras and I don't have that ability, but I can see this vibrancy and life force in them.
Right.
That's undeniable. Like, I could show you a picture like 3 months later, and you're like, whoa, like that person has life breathed back into them.
Yeah, you can see that in some of the pictures, and that, I mean, if you just want to look at some of the effects of the topical cream, first of all, as far as I know, and I mean, I don't have a lot of these, but I know that, sometimes I'll buy them for my wife, or she's into the potions and the creams and keeping her skin looking young, and I just kind of piggyback. I'm like, what is this stuff? This is cool. I like playing with it, but I'm not as concerned or diligent with it as she is. And I know that they're all looking to do one thing, basically, and it's exactly what this product just happens to do, in 28 days. So, I think you guys even have like a money back guarantee with it, don't you?
Yes.
I mean,
literally, like, when I say there's nothing to lose here, first of all, for your health. Like, let's start there, because safety is everything. You can't be allergic to it. It's impossible to contraindicate with a medicine, because what's in this bottle is already in you. Your body's already interacted with it. So it can't contraindicate.
So it doesn't matter what, you don't need to talk to your doctor because you're taking something that's already endogenous to the body. My father loves to say, well, I got to check. I'm like, what do you got to check? These are, I'm talking about upping your turmeric. And
yeah, like,
I'm like,
and
check what?
Oh, and the doctors aren't specialized in this. They don't know. And so a lot of times for their own, like, because of liability, they'll say no.
Yeah.
If they don't know. And anyway, people they're not aware. But you can't be allergic to it. No toxicity. They literally tried to find, like, every drug, you probably know this, they have an LD50. So there's an amount that kills 50% of the rats. Like, when you go for FDA approval, they ask, what's the LD50? Then you can start doing human trials. So you titrate it down. So the drug is still effective, but isn't killing 50% of
right. My God.
But it has all those wild side effects that we hear about. So they couldn't find it on this.
Wow.
Because the body makes these molecules from saline. Like, you need sodium and chloride and hydrogen and oxygen. The body sources all that from saline, because you're like a sack of saline. Dry salty, we sweat salty. So the body takes those four and it recombines into different things. Hydrogen peroxide, chlorine dioxide, hypochlorite, like all of these you can make from those four building blocks, superoxide. And after it's used up, it just goes back into saline. So like, this is something that you can't take too much of. Like, there's no toxic amount that could possibly build up in your system.
Right.
And then there's the money back guarantee. So
you
can try it without having to worry financially. If it doesn't do what you want, I would just say, get, the gel to do what I said on 10 people, like seed work. And then I would be patient with the liquid. I do say 90 days is really what you should look at. But if you only want to give it a month, we just probably need to take more. Take the magic 8, take 8 ounces a day. And we'll see where you're at.
Nothing to lose, everything to gain. The body only knows how to heal. I say this all the time because people need to be reminded. People think, but like, well, that person's sick. Well, that just means the body's losing ground, and it's healing. I don't want to call it a fight, but the process has become overwhelming for the body. That doesn't mean that the body's just, it literally just means the body is failing to keep up with its maintenance duties. It's like a person who gets old and they can no longer handle the workload that they once had. It's not, is that sick? No, it's just that they're no longer capable of getting healthy, right? There's a difference. We like to put everything in the worst context and imagine the worst, and that affects the way our bodies react and respond. And I just think that it's part of the problem with how sick our society is. It's just, a small part of the problem. There's a lot of bigger problems in that. But this stuff is amazing. So I'm going to be straight up. Like, I want to order it. I want my listeners who are definitely going to be interested to be able to order it. So, like, what do I do, Danielle? I've checked out the website. I've been reading the studies, and then I'm definitely going to get a few of the blue bottles. And then it's basically, do I have to mix it with anything, or I could just shoot it?
This is a great question. You take it like a shot. You can't mix it. You can't drink out of the bottle. There's a little, like, plastic, looks like a shot glass. It's 2 ounces that comes with it. You pour it into that, and then you actually hold it in your mouth for like 15, 30 seconds. So it's
absorbed, right? Yeah.
It's absorbed sublingually. Yeah. And then swish it around, and then swallow it. Don't spit it out. Like, do drink it. And then just wait 5 minutes before you eat, drink, do anything else, and you're good to go. It's like super simple. I do it first thing in the morning. I do it last thing before I go to bed. The topical for your skin, you use it twice a day. For like localized issues, you can use it as much as you want. Again, no toxicity. Just put the repair workers on. If you cut yourself, if you've got a bump, a burn, a bruise, or whatever, like, put it on the area, and let's just put the repair workers there. And the more you put it on, the faster the repair happens. And people, for you, as soon as we finish, we can get some on its way to you.
Okay.
You guys listening, we'll put a link in the show notes. And what I would say is, you'll see a blue website, and there'll be a contact me. Click contact me, put in your name and phone number and email, and we'll reach out to just help you get set up in the right way. Like there's different options for ordering, and people sometimes end up paying more than they need to, or not getting enough product for their need. So
Right.
something I'm really passionate about is education. To me, this is like be empowered with the knowledge, know what you're getting into, and then let's get the right amount for you and your family. So we'll reach out and make sure that that's there. And we do a lot of educational things throughout the week, like some of the doctors on the medical
Yeah, I
board,
saw that.
and there's so much in place because we just want people to get connected. If there's testimonials too. Like I can get you connected in with people that have had the same issue you have, and you can go here. Well, how long did it take? And what, how much did they drink? And people are typically drinking between 4 and 8 ounces. So you need between 4 and 8 bottles a month, because this is just 32 ounces.
Right.
So having a conversation about that, they have bundle deals, subscribe and save options, all this kind of stuff. And I like to navigate people through that to get you set up properly.
So don't be put off by the phone call, everybody. It's a simple phone call, and it's going to be easier to, first of all, you're going to sign up and then you'll receive the call, right? And then you won't, it'll make the process easier going forward, and you'll know you're getting the most bang for your buck, because this product, can be found at a variety of prices and a variety of sites. So you want to make sure that you're getting that, you're not just paying out the rear end.
Oh, and can we talk about that? Because people
Yeah.
are putting expired product on sites like eBay, Amazon. I saw it pop up on Walmart. Like
Yeah.
people have to realize these are third-party sellers. Like these are just human beings that are like, oh, it expired. I wasted my money. I didn't drink it. And they put it up there to sell it to somebody else.
Right.
And it's a mess. So yeah, let's make sure you get it from the right place. And we can get it to you so you have the money back guarantee, you get it straight from the facility, and it has a shelf life that is correct.
Yes.
All those things. And we'll probably shoot you a text to arrange a time to talk and walk through things with you. So
It'll
yeah,
be easy, and then you won't have any questions. Well, you won't be like, oh, I don't know, am I doing this right? Or you'll have a support group and somebody to ask questions, so you'll be confident moving forward. You won't be like, I don't know what I'm doing. It won't be.
Yeah.
I know it can be overwhelming, right?
Yeah, it can be. And also, guys, like there's no pressure. I mean, you've probably felt my personality throughout this whole thing, that I just genuinely want people to be properly educated and to get what's best for them, so you get set up correctly. And that's it.
And I just want people to live a healthy, happy life. And I know that happiness is so much easier when health is in place. And I think of, my family and my loved ones, and I just, when I see a product like this, I know it's the future. If only the word can get out, to enough people, it can change the state of health, of a large piece of the population. But, we live in a society that is, not exactly conducive to these types of breakthroughs. That's the truth. And so I get excited and passionate about it, because I hate when this deception gets in the way of people's well-being. That really bothers me. And so I am going to advocate for this. Well, first I'm gonna get on it, and I've already seen how the gel works, but I'm excited to try it. And from everything I've read, it looks like an incredible breakthrough. So I was really excited to reconnect with Danielle after everything settled with my brother, and Danielle was this is how genuine this young lady is. She wrote me to see how my brother was doing when he was still alive, and I was talking to her, and she was very supportive, and she checked back in, and then eventually she checked back in, and I had to give her the news that my brother had passed on to the next great adventure. But I mean, just I appreciate that, Danielle. I appreciate you reaching out, and it's very kind and genuine of you, and I appreciated your kind words and support. So
we're all one.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at everything. Like I am because we are, it's an African thing, Ubuntu. And I know that if I can help you, it helps me, it helps the collective. Like I want to lift humanity. I feel people's fear. I feel the sickness that's going around. And I'm like, no, there's a better way. And I walked the path 10 years ago with my injury. And I know I'm positioned to help other people now walk it.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to go through what we went through and that all of this would be unfolding. But I know, like I said at the beginning, like my soul is here for a bigger purpose and a
Yeah.
different reason. And it's the humanity in all of us. I see the divine in you, and like you're me and I'm you. And that's what it's all about. Like, we're here to help one another. And why wouldn't we?
Yes, exactly. I agreed and agreed. Yeah. So cool. So we're going to put a link in the video description that'll take you guys most likely to a landing page. I'm thinking the word "far out with Faust" will be involved.
I can't imagine why.
I'm just guessing. I don't think that one's taken. So look for that, and yeah, and then we'll go from there. But it's so cool. Check out, if you guys want to learn more about Danielle's story, you can Google her, and there's some amazing. We're going to include links to. There's a variety of websites to read about the studies that have been published about these products and how they work, and the hard science. All the skeptics involved can read about the science and the way it works. You don't, it's not woo woo.
Yeah.
We're not asking you to make a leap of faith in using the product. There's some sound science that is very easy to understand behind it all. So check it out. Check it out. Sometimes the simplest answer is the best one. Yeah, that's what the wise man figures out. So it's been real, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think it'd be fun. We should do an update down the road, and maybe we can bring one of the doctors I work with on to kind of dive deeper with you and your guests. And
let's do that. Let's get me on for 90 days.
Yeah,
and I'll use the gel, and I'll give my wife the gel, and then we'll come back on. We'll do a follow up. We'll bring a doctor, and then I can go off about how it's worked, if it's worked for me, and that would be really cool.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Awesome. Okay, my friend. Well, thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate you, Danielle. And yeah, we'll get me squared away when we're off with this.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.